The faint, sweet scent of sawdust and linseed oil drifted on the crisp air, a timeless perfume carried by the morning breeze. It was a smell that clung to the very fabric of his childhood, a warm, comforting presence in his earliest memories. Each inhale brought a rush of forgotten moments, like turning the pages of a well-worn, cherished photograph album. That particular aroma settled deep within Thomas's chest, a gentle warmth spreading through his entire being. It was the smell of creation, of careful hands, shaping raw materials into something useful and beautiful, a true alchemy. This fragrance, more than any sound or sight, marked the beginning and the end of many long, industrious days. The year was 1957, and Thomas Greer, a man of 55 years, stood by his window. He was in rural Pennsylvania, where the rolling hills met the quiet Susquehanna River, painting a scene of enduring tranquility. Life moved at a steady, unhurried pace here. Unlike the bustling cities far to the east or west, a world away, a deep sense of belonging filled these valleys, a feeling many folks knew in those simpler, more grounded times. Thomas slowly lifted his worn coffee mug, feeling the familiar warmth seep into his calloused fingers this quiet morning. He watched the first rays of sunlight stretch across the dew-kissed fields, painting the landscape in soft, golden hues. A small sigh escaped his lips, not of sorrow, but of profound contentment, a quiet acknowledgement of passing years. His gaze followed a red-tailed hawk, circling high above the distant tree line, a patient hunter on the still morning air. Do you ever find yourself just watching the world wake up, lost in thought, remembering scenes from long ago? He gently traced the condensation ring on the wooden sill, a small, imperfect circle on the smooth, aged surface. The faint, persistent ache in his knee, an old farming injury, served as a quiet reminder of youthful labors. He took another sip of coffee, its bitter warmth a pleasant contrast to the cool, fresh air filtering through the screen. Thomas always made sure to grind his own beans, a small ritual ensuring the perfect morning brew every single day. His mind began to wander, drifting back through the decades, pulled by that familiar, potent workshop scent. He unconsciously rubbed his thumb over a faint scar on his palm, a tiny mark from an errant chisel in his youth. The sounds of the waking farm, a distant cowbell, a rooster's crow, were a symphony he knew intimately. He adjusted the spectacles resting on his nose, allowing his eyes to sharpen on a distant, familiar barn roof. Thomas often found himself in these quiet moments, sifting through the layers of his past, like turning over stones. He remembered his father saying, "A man's true wealth isn't in his pockets, but in the memories he keeps." He leaned closer to the window pane, feeling the cool glass against his forehead, a refreshing sensation. A gentle smile touched his lips, a private expression for thoughts known only to his own reflective heart. He knew these hills like the back of his hand, every dip and rise a story etched into his very soul. The early morning light filtered through the thin curtains, casting long, dancing shadows across the parlor floor. He slowly turned from the window, the image of a younger self, full of youthful vigor, beginning to vividly form. The Greer farmhouse, solid and true, stood on a gentle rise, painted a cheerful cream color with dark green trim. Its wide porch, often filled with rocking chairs, offered a welcoming view of the fields stretching out towards the creek. Inside, the scent of wood smoke from the kitchen stove mingled with freshly baked bread, a constant comforting perfume. My mother, bless her heart, always said, "A home without good smells isn't much of a home at all." The kitchen was the heart of everything, a bustling hub of morning activity. Even before the sun fully climbed, pots clanged softly, water hissed on the stove, and the rhythmic thud of a rolling pin often announced breakfast. We lived a quarter-mile from the nearest neighbor, the Miller farm, their barn a distant silhouette against the dawn sky. Children in those days learned to entertain themselves with simple things, finding joy in nature's quiet offerings. Do you remember the distinct sound of a screen door slamming shut on a summer morning, signaling freedom? The morning air in the valley carried the distant bleating of sheep and the lowing of cattle from nearby pastures. Thomas would usually wake to the gentle clinking of dishes downstairs, signaling the start of another busy day. He would quickly dress in his overalls, already imagining the day's adventures awaiting beyond the farmhouse door. Breakfast was a hearty affair, often oatmeal with homemade preserves or eggs fresh from the henhouse. Father always insisted on a full stomach before any work began, saying, "You can't build on an empty foundation." The long wooden table, scarred by years of use, bore witness to countless family meals and lively morning discussions. The sun, a golden orb, would slowly peek over the eastern ridge, pouring warmth into the cozy kitchen space. Only a farmer's son truly understands the deep connection between the earth's rhythm and his own daily routine. After breakfast, chores awaited, from feeding the chickens to fetching water from the well. Each task important. The well water, drawn by hand, was always shockingly cold and wonderfully refreshing, even on the hottest days. Thomas would often see his father already out in the yard, sharpening an axe or checking the garden rows. His father moved with a quiet purpose, each movement deliberate and efficient. A master of his own small domain. The path to the workshop, a well-trodden dirt track, wound past the chicken coop and through a small apple orchard. The workshop stood a little apart from the house, a sturdy, weathered structure, graying with age and respect. It was more than just a building. It was a sanctuary, a place where wood whispered its secrets to patient hands. Thomas remembered the satisfying crunch of gravel under his bare feet as he walked towards the workshop. The dew on the grass would feel like tiny, cold jewels beneath his toes, a pleasant morning shock. A cardinal's song, bright and clear, often heralded the day, adding to the symphony of the awakening farm. He would pass the old oak tree, its branches spreading wide like welcoming arms, a silent sentinel for generations. His mother would often be out tending her herb garden, humming a familiar hymn, her apron dusted with flour. "Don't forget your chores, young man," she'd call, her voice carrying gently on the morning breeze. The air carried the earthy smell of damp soil, mixed with the sweet fragrance of honeysuckle near the porch swing. Sometimes, a gentle fog would still cling to the lowlands, making the world feel hushed and wonderfully mysterious. The sounds of the cows chewing cud in the pasture were a comforting, rhythmic backdrop to the morning's quiet tasks. Thomas would quickly finish his assigned duties, his mind already drifting towards the promise of the workshop. He knew, deep down, that the real lessons, the truly important ones, often began once the chores were done. The sun would climb higher, warming the entire valley, bringing with it the promise of a long, industrious day. Do you ever think about how much simpler life felt when the sun dictated the day's rhythm, not a clock? The path to the workshop was more than just dirt. It was a bridge between the domestic world and a world of creation. He would often pause to watch a squirrel scamper up an oak, or a rabbit dart into the tall grass. These small moments of natural observation were as much a part of his education as anything else. His father, Arthur Greer, was a man of few words, but his hands spoke volumes through their skilled craftsmanship. He was a pillar of quiet strength, a man who believed in hard work and the enduring value of honest labor. His mother, Eleanor, was the heart of their home, her laughter a bright melody even on the most challenging days. She possessed a remarkable gift for making everyone feel welcome, her kindness extending far beyond their family. The neighbors, like the Millers and the Abernathys, were more than just friends. They were extended family, always ready to lend a hand. In those days, community meant everything. A network of support woven through shared experiences and mutual respect. Mr. Abernathy, with his booming laugh, would often bring over fresh-picked corn in the late summer afternoons. Mrs. Miller's apple pies were legendary throughout the valley, a warm, spiced gift after a long harvest day. Do you remember a time when neighbors truly knew each other's stories, sharing joys and burdens alike? Children would play together in the fields, inventing games from sticks and stones, fueled by pure imagination. There were no televisions in most homes, so evenings were spent reading, talking, or listening to the radio's gentle hum. Thomas remembered sitting on the porch, swing with his father, watching the fireflies dance against the darkening sky. His father would point out constellations, naming each star with a quiet reverence, sharing ancient wisdom. These were the simple moments, the quiet lessons, that slowly built the foundation of his understanding. The older folks often gathered for Sunday dinner, telling stories that stretched back generations, binding them together. Only those who lived in close-knit rural communities understand the comforting rhythm of shared meals and conversation. Thomas had an older sister, Sarah, whose nimble fingers could mend anything, from torn shirts to broken spirits. She taught him how to skip stones across the creek and the secret places where wild strawberries grew sweetest. Evenings often ended with the gentle chirping of crickets, a natural lullaby beneath the vast, star-studded sky. The air would grow cool, carrying the scent of damp earth and blooming night jasmine from his mother's garden. These were the days when time seemed to stretch out endlessly, a tapestry woven with threads of daily miracles. His father always emphasized the importance of looking after one another, a core tenet of their community life. The sense of belonging was as palpable as the Pennsylvania soil beneath their feet. Solid and deeply rooted, every sunset painted the western sky with hues of orange and purple, a fitting end to another beautiful day. The quiet dignity of their lives, steeped in tradition and hard work, shaped young Thomas in countless profound ways. As Thomas remembered these quiet mornings, his thoughts always gravitated towards one particular building. That humble structure, nestled behind the farmhouse, held the very essence of his father's gentle spirit. It was a place of transformation, where rough timber became art, and silence often spoke volumes of wisdom. The workshop, a world unto itself, awaited his quiet contemplation, ready to share its many treasured stories. Tomorrow, we will step inside and uncover the secrets held within its sawdust-scented wooden walls. Young Thomas Greer often found himself lingering near the workshop door, drawn by the mysterious sounds and the rich, earthy smells emanating from within its sturdy wooden walls. He was only 5 or 6 years old then, a small boy with wide, curious eyes and an imagination already filled with wondrous possibilities. Do you remember that feeling of being on the cusp of a fascinating world, just out of reach, yet so incredibly inviting? The workshop itself was a kingdom of raw materials, a place where humble planks transformed into sturdy furniture under his father's patient hand. The scent of fresh pine sawdust mingled with the distinct aroma of machine oil and linseed, creating a perfume utterly unique to that space. The rhythmic whirring of the belt-driven planer, a sound no longer heard in modern shops, served as a constant, comforting background music. His father, a man of few words, communicated more through the careful precision of his movements than with any spoken instruction. Thomas often stood on tiptoes, peering through a small crack in the workshop door, watching his father transform wood. He touched each piece of lumber with a reverence, as if he could feel the very grain telling him its story and purpose. Do you recall a time when someone you knew approached their craft with such an unwavering, silent dedication? One afternoon, his father was planing a large oak board, creating delicate, curly shavings that spiraled onto the floor. The whispery hiss of the plane against the wood was a constant, almost hypnotic sound, like his father's steady breath. Thomas was mesmerized by the golden, ribbon-like curls that piled up, each one perfectly formed and smelling of fresh timber. His father would then run the back of his hand along the plane's surface, a subtle gesture verifying its perfect smoothness. Only someone who worked wood extensively would truly understand the satisfaction held in that simple, wordless touch. One day, Thomas, usually so careful, accidentally pushed the workshop door open a little too far and stumbled inside. His father did not scold him. Instead, he offered a gentle, almost imperceptible smile, a rare expression from the quiet man. Thomas found himself standing within the bustling heart of his father's world, surrounded by tools and half-finished projects. The air was thick with the rich scent of oil and fine wood dust, clinging to everything like a golden memory. This was a pivotal moment, a quiet threshold crossed that would forever shape young Thomas's understanding of his father. Do you have a particular memory of the first time you were allowed into a grown-up space that felt utterly magical? His father pointed to a small, well-worn chisel hanging neatly on a pegboard, its handle smoothed by years of use. "What is that one for, father?" Thomas asked in a hushed whisper, intimidated by the quiet grandeur. His father simply took the chisel down and placed its smooth, cool handle into Thomas's small, eager hand. Thomas felt the surprising weight of the tool, its perfect balance, and the faint, lingering scent of wood and metal. It was the very first time he had ever held a true tool, not a toy, but something built for honest work. His father's large, strong hand gently closed over Thomas's, guiding him to hold the chisel just so. No words were spoken, just a subtle nod. A silent lesson passed from father to son. In that warm, dusty room, Thomas remembered the rich smell of oak and the insistent hum of the band saw, its broad blade a blur of silver. Perhaps you too have learned an important lesson that was never once articulated with spoken words, simply understood. After that, his father gave him a small piece of wood scrap, perhaps an offcut from a larger project. "See what you can make of it," his father murmured, a rare verbal invitation into his creative domain. Thomas felt a swell of quiet pride, a feeling as solid and real as the wood in his hand, filling his young chest. He tried to plane the wood gently, mimicking the precise, flowing movements he had observed his father execute. Tiny, imperfect shavings fluttered down, not elegant curls, but still a testament to his earnest effort. His father did not correct him. He simply watched, a gentle, knowing look in his quiet, observant eyes. It was an unspoken acceptance, a valuable lesson in perseverance and the quiet dignity of honest, diligent effort. He remembered his father's 1932 Ford pickup truck, parked just outside, its engine always ready. The rumble of its engine, when it started, was a familiar sound, a dependable part of their Pennsylvania landscape. Can you still hear the distinctive sound of an old family car, perhaps its unique purr or a particular rattle? Inside the workshop, various pieces of furniture waited patiently for repair, each with its own story of wear. A wobbly kitchen table, a scratch dresser, a rocking chair missing a spindle, all anticipating his father's touch. Each item was treated with the same quiet respect, whether it was a grand cabinet or a humble wooden toy. His father would mix hide glue in a double boiler, its sweet, earthy smell adding another layer to the workshop's perfume. Only those who worked with wood in earlier times would recognize that specific, slightly pungent, yet comforting, adhesive smell. The warm, thick glue was meticulously brushed onto wooden joints, binding pieces with enduring strength and patience. Thomas watched his father carefully tighten the wooden clamps, holding the glued pieces firmly until they set. He turned the handles slowly, deliberately, ensuring just the right amount of pressure, never too much force. Each clamp was a silent, steadfast companion, patiently holding the promise of restoration in its sturdy embrace. Do you remember tasks that required immense patience, where rushing would only lead to less than perfect results? His father would wipe away any excess glue immediately with a damp rag, leaving no sticky residue behind. It was a small detail, but one that spoke volumes about his father's meticulous attention to every single aspect of his craft. Thomas learned that true perfection often resided in these tiny, almost imperceptible, finishing touches. His father meticulously returned every tool to its designated spot on the wall after each use. A ritual of order. Each hammer, every saw, all the chisels and planes had their precise place, ready for the next day's work. It was a testament to his respect for the tools themselves and for the honest labor they helped him perform. Do you recall similar habits of tidiness or specific routines from your own childhood? Perhaps from a parent or grandparent? At the close of each day, the workshop would gradually grow quiet, its machinery resting until morning. The bare light bulbs hanging from the ceiling would be switched off one by one, plunging corners into soft shadow. The last slivers of light from the western window would gently fade, leaving the space in a peaceful dimness. Thomas would drift off to sleep with the lingering scent of wood and oil still in his young nose, a comforting presence. His father remained a quiet, humble craftsman, his hands always busy, always creating something beautiful and functional. The unspoken lessons from his father, observed in that workshop, stayed with Thomas throughout his entire life. Patience, respect for materials, and an unwavering dedication to doing things correctly. These were his father's enduring gifts. Do you recall a silent mentor in your own life? Someone who taught you more through their actions than their words? Thomas remembered the distinctive rasping sound of his father, sharpening a plane blade on a whetstone, creating a perfect edge. Water and oil would drip down, mixing into a dark, gritty paste, essential for the tool's keenness. Only those who relied on hand tools would truly appreciate the importance of a meticulously honed cutting edge. His father would then carefully test the blade with his thumb, a quick, expert touch confirming its razor sharpness. Thomas knew this was the mark of a true craftsman, someone who respected their instruments and their work. He remembered the shelves filled with countless small wooden boxes, each containing a different size of nail or screw. Each box had a meticulously handwritten label, a testament to his father's unwavering sense of order and organization. Perhaps you too have witnessed such painstaking attention to detail in someone you admired. A quiet pursuit of perfection. His father would use a handsaw, cutting through wood with a smooth, almost effortless rhythm, never wasting a motion. The gentle rasping of the saw was another sound of creation, a steady whisper that accompanied every new piece. Thomas would try to imitate him, but his own attempts were always clumsier, less precise, lacking his father's touch. Gradually, he learned to respect the wood itself, understanding its unique characteristics and how it would respond. His father taught him, without saying a word, that each tree had its own spirit, its own story to tell. He remembered the rough-hewn wooden stools scattered around the workshop, always available for a moment of rest. Do you have a cherished memory of a simple, unassuming spot that offered comfort and a quiet moment of reflection? These stools had witnessed countless hours of patient work, quiet contemplation, and the steady rhythm of creation. His father would sit there, carefully inspecting a piece of wood, turning it over and over in his strong hands. He seemed to look right through it, understanding its strengths, its weaknesses, its unique character. It was a profound connection, a silent conversation between the craftsman and the raw material that he shaped. Thomas would sit on a smaller stool nearby, simply absorbing the quiet wisdom of his father's presence. He would sometimes doodle on scraps of wood with a pencil, imagining his own creations taking shape. The smell of graphite mixed with the pervasive woody scent, a pleasant, stimulating combination for a young mind. His father taught him merely by being, by existing as a quiet force of creation and thoughtful endeavor. These first memories of the workshop were always bathed in a warm, golden glow, like a perfect late afternoon sun. They formed the bedrock of Thomas's early understanding of the world, of work, and of the quiet power of making. Do you remember a specific place from your youth that profoundly shaped who you became? Even in subtle ways, outside the old workshop window, the cheerful chirping of sparrows would occasionally punctuate the quiet hum of work. It was a gentle contrast to the focused concentration inside. A reminder of the rolling Pennsylvania countryside. Everything felt simple, authentic, and imbued with deep, unspoken meaning in that rustic, honest space. His father never complained about the hard work, embracing each challenge with a steady, enduring resolve. He simply worked, allowing his capable hands and the results of his efforts to speak for themselves eloquently. Thomas learned the profound value of silence and of diligent labor, a lesson steeped in sawdust and dedication. Those days floated by like sun-dappled dust motes, slowly settling into the quiet corners of his memory. And now, at 55, he still recalled those early moments with a vivid, comforting clarity, a gentle echo. The memory of his father and that beloved workshop remained a warm, quiet comfort, a peaceful presence in his heart. Thomas remembered his childhood mornings, the sun just peeking over the distant rolling hills, painting the sky with soft, muted hues of pink and orange. The comforting aroma of brewing coffee would gently drift from the kitchen, slowly awakening everyone in their peaceful farmhouse. His mother's gentle clatter of pots and pans as she prepared breakfast was a familiar and soothing symphony to young Thomas. His father, a man of quiet habits, had always risen even earlier. His steady footsteps, a soft rhythm throughout the quiet house. Breakfast was a simple affair, often oatmeal or eggs, but it was always warm and shared around their sturdy kitchen table. His father would quietly read the local newspaper, sipping his strong black coffee, the scent mingling with the breakfast smells. His mother, ever the diligent homemaker, would ensure that everyone had what they needed, her presence a comforting anchor. Do you recall those quiet, unhurried mornings yourself, before the hurried pace of our modern world truly began to rush? After breakfast, his father would gather his lunch pail and head out the back door towards his beloved workshop. The gentle click of the back door closing signified the quiet commencement of another productive workday for the family. His mother would then begin her daily chores, sweeping the kitchen floor and starting the laundry in their washtub. The bustling morning energy in the house slowly transformed into a more serene and organized calm. Young Thomas often assisted his mother with small tasks, feeling a sense of purpose in his own contributions. He recalled the rhythmic thrum of the washing machine, a steady pulse mirroring the predictable cadence of their rural existence. Later, he would venture outside, exploring the fields and woods surrounding their comfortable, unassuming farmhouse. The distant ringing of the school bell would signal children to their lessons, a clear sound across the quiet morning air. His mother would occasionally travel to the main street, a lively hub in their charming, sleepy little town. The main street served as the town's bustling heart, a place for errands and friendly, familiar conversations among neighbors. There was the general store, a cozy diner, and the old-fashioned barbershop, each with its own distinctive character. Mr. Johnson's general store seemed to carry everything imaginable, from penny candy to sturdy farming implements. The scent of freshly roasted coffee beans mingled with old wood and dried spices inside the store, a unique perfume. Can you still recall the distinct aroma of those old general stores? A scent that seems to have vanished from today's world. Mrs. Peterson's diner always offered the most delicious apple pie, its sweet fragrance often spilling onto the sidewalk. Thomas's father would sometimes stop for a quick coffee there, exchanging friendly greetings and local news with other men. Mr. Henderson's barbershop was a sanctuary for men, filled with lively chatter and the snip-snip of scissors. The crisp, clean scent of shaving cream and hair tonic perpetually hung in the air, a very masculine fragrance. Thomas remembered his father returning home, his hair neatly trimmed, a fresh, clean scent clinging to him. After school, Thomas would often wander towards the workshop, drawn by the familiar sounds of creation emanating from within. The rhythmic hum of the saw, the whisper of the planer, the gentle tap of a hammer were his father's daily symphony. The distinct aroma of fresh cedar sawdust mixed with machine oil and oak shavings, filled the air, a unique perfume. He would simply stand and watch, seldom speaking, absorbing the silent lessons his father imparted through his patient actions. His father was a man of few words, yet his diligent actions conveyed volumes of wisdom and quiet dedication. Every piece of lumber was handled with immense respect and an artisan's unwavering precision, a testament to his craft. It was like a shepherd knowing each individual sheep, understanding its unique grain and hidden character. His mother would call Thomas inside when the lengthening shadows announced the approaching end of the day. Dinner was a cherished time when the family reunited, sharing stories and quiet reflections after a full day. The savory aroma of stew, warm homemade bread, and fresh garden vegetables filled their cozy kitchen. His father would meticulously wash his hands, scrubbing away the sawdust and the day's honest toil. He was always punctual for dinner, a reliable and comforting presence at the head of their table. Meals were times for small anecdotes, quiet laughter, and the easy comfort of shared companionship. Thomas felt the deep warmth of his family's love in those shared meals, a feeling of security and belonging. After dinner, the family would gather in the living room, a cozy space filled with familiar treasures. Their trusty old radio served as the primary source of entertainment, bringing voices and music into their home. Radio plays, country music, and the evening news would fill the air, painting pictures in their minds. Do you remember gathering around the radio for your favorite programs, letting your imagination fill in the scenes? His father often sat in his favorite armchair, quietly reading a book, lost in its comforting pages. His mother would knit, the gentle click of her needles, a soft counterpoint to the radio's murmur. Thomas would either do his schoolwork or delve into exciting adventure stories, transported to far-off lands. On special occasions, they would gather to watch their small black and white television set, a marvel of modern technology. The flickering images and the slight static hum were part of the charm, holding them all utterly captivated. The wider world slowly opened up to them, even if only through the grainy, limited scope of that small screen. His father would often explain complex concepts or historical events shown on television to young Thomas. Gentle conversations about life, values, and the future would often unfold in those peaceful evening hours. Their family was not wealthy in material possessions, but they were incredibly rich in love and shared affection. Their life together felt like a cherished, well-worn quilt, offering warmth and profound comfort against any chill. Thomas always felt utterly safe and profoundly loved within the comforting embrace of his devoted family. As the grandfather clock chimed 9 times, signaling the approaching end of the day, it was time for bed. His mother would read a short story or quietly hum a gentle lullaby, her voice a soothing balm. His father would offer a quiet goodnight, sometimes placing a reassuring hand softly upon Thomas's forehead. That simple gesture conveyed such immense warmth, a silent and profound expression of his deep, unwavering love. Thomas would lie in bed, listening to the gentle chirping of crickets and the soft rustling of leaves outside his window. The distant bark of a neighbor's dog was a familiar and comforting sound, echoing across the quiet countryside. Those days unfolded with a steady rhythm, a peaceful cycle of work, family, and simple, profound joys. Each day brought its own small lessons, often unspoken, yet deeply understood by his observant young mind. Their lives flowed gently, much like the serene creek meandering softly through the green, fertile valley. His father had painstakingly built a stable and reliable world, one firmly anchored in honest hard work. Thomas always felt his father's steady presence, even when the man himself was not physically nearby. The workshop truly represented the beating heart of his father's life, and by extension, their entire family's existence. The rhythmic whisper of the wood planer was the very sound of his father's steadfast patience and remarkable skill. The scent of wood and machine oil became an indelible part of Thomas's own sensory memories of childhood. Those vivid memories remain as fresh and clear as if they had occurred just yesterday. Still resonating deeply, is there a particular place from your own past whose unique scent you can still vividly recall and cherish today? Thomas remembered the cool, smooth feel of the metal doorknob on the workshop door beneath his small hand. He recalled the soft, amber glow from the bare light bulb hanging suspended just inside the sturdy entrance. Every tool had its specific place, each neatly arranged and meticulously cared for by his orderly father. It was an inherent order that young Thomas always admired, quietly learning its value through silent observation. His father was a man of quiet precision and infinite patience, qualities reflected in every piece he crafted. Those unspoken lessons quietly shaped the very man Thomas would eventually become, deeply influencing his character. Life in rural Pennsylvania was undeniably simple, yet it was filled with profound meaning and quiet contentment. The rolling green hills and the clear, meandering creeks were constant companions throughout his tender youth. There was none of the frenetic rush and hurried urgency that characterizes much of today's modern world. Only the gentle, natural rhythm of day transitioning into night, marking the steady passage of time. Each twinkling star above their farmhouse seemed to tell a silent story of timeless wonder and quiet majesty. The stars were like precious diamonds scattered across a vast dark velvet cloth, shimmering with ancient light. The haunting call of an owl would sometimes echo softly from the nearby shadowed woods at night. Thomas would close his eyes, feeling a profound sense of peace settle over him, a deep and comforting stillness. Those days were truly memorable, incredibly precious, forming the very foundation of his enduring character. They shaped him, piece by thoughtful piece, in the quiet, honorable manner of his steadfast father. Every tool in the workshop, every piece of wood, every speck of fine sawdust held a silent story. They were all integral parts of his father's honest life, interwoven with their daily existence. And Thomas was truly privileged to have been a part of that quietly beautiful and profoundly meaningful narrative. It was a tranquil life, seemingly simple, yet complete in its unwavering devotion and quiet fulfillment. The neighboring farmhouses would slowly become dark as well, their windows glowing softly, then fading into quiet. Only the silvery moonlight would remain, casting long, ethereal shadows across the sleeping, peaceful fields, and the gentle whisper of the wind rustling through the ancient oak trees, a lullaby from nature itself. Thomas remembered the comforting weight of his quilts, feeling utterly secure within their soft, familiar embrace. The faint, clean scent of freshly laundered cotton sheets always brought a sense of quiet contentment. He would slowly drift off to sleep, his young mind already dreaming of the new day's coming possibilities. Another day would soon begin, heralded by the cheerful song of early morning birds once more, and the familiar, comforting sound of wood being planed would echo gently from his father's steadfast workshop. The small town surrounding father's workshop felt like an extended family, where every single face held a familiar, comforting story. Everyone knew each other by name through shared pews at church and across county fairgrounds or local festival tents. Life revolved around simple, shared activities, weaving a tapestry of strong, enduring communal bonds. Sunday mornings served as the true heartbeat of the week, a time for reflection and precious social gathering. Do you remember a specific place that once served as the central hub of your own childhood community life? The clear, resonant sound of the church bell echoed across the valley, a familiar signal calling everyone together. People wore their Sunday best, sharing quiet news and warm, genuine greetings on the church steps afterward. His father often stood there, offering kind smiles and exchanging friendly words with neighbors, his presence reassuring. He listened intently to their small concerns, always ready to offer thoughtful advice or gentle, practical assistance. Locals affectionately referred to these post-church discussions as taking the town's pulse, a vital community ritual. The county fair, in early September, was another eagerly anticipated annual event, bursting with vibrant life. The sweet scent of caramel corn mingled with fresh hay in the crisp, invigorating autumn air. Farmers proudly displayed their largest vegetables, competing for colorful ribbons and bragging rights among friends. Children's laughter and animal sounds blended into a joyful, rustic symphony of pure, unadulterated happiness. The community felt like a warm, well-worn patchwork quilt, embracing everyone in its comforting folds of kinship. The merry-go-round carried young Thomas up and down, offering simple, spinning delights with each revolution. Father always bought him a small bag of popcorn and a refreshingly tart cup of fresh squeezed lemonade. Later harvest festivals celebrated the bounty of the local land, expressing gratitude for nature's generosity. People sang old songs, danced traditional jigs, and shared hearty, home-cooked meals under twinkling string lights. Thomas's father enjoyed watching everyone revel, a quiet, contented smile gracing his kind, gentle face. Mrs. Albright, Thomas's former schoolteacher, held a truly respected position within their close-knit town. She still owned the sturdy oak writing desk his father had crafted for her many, many years ago. Once, a leg became slightly wobbly, and she carefully brought it to the workshop for a quick repair. Father repaired it with meticulous care and deep respect, treating it like a precious, irreplaceable work of art. Did you ever have a particularly special teacher whose memory has stayed with you throughout your entire life? Old Mr. Henderson, the white-haired farmer, was another frequent and welcome visitor to the workshop. He often carried a broken axe handle or a slightly splintered barn door, needing careful mending. Instead of money, he would trade a dozen fresh eggs or a generous jug of creamy, freshly churned milk. Father cherished this form of bartering, as it quietly reinforced the deep, interconnected bonds of neighborliness. Locals believed that anything traded with honest effort truly held together longer. A shared, unspoken wisdom. Mr. Davies, the proprietor of the general store, was a veritable treasure trove of town news and local stories. His store served as the community's true living room, where every whisper seemed to find a listening ear. Father occasionally went there for a few specific nails or a sturdy, dependable coil of strong rope. Mr. Davies would inquire about a broken ladder or a chair with a bothersome, persistent, wobbly leg. The general store felt like a subtle spiderweb, connecting every vital thread of the town's interwoven lives. Father had fixed countless items for Mr. Davies over the many, many passing years. Perhaps a squeaky door, a slightly leaning shelf, or a loose handle on the old coffee grinder. These tasks were never tallied for payment. Just simple, unspoken favors exchanged between true friends. Father was an indispensable, quiet fixture of this community, a silent, dependable pillar of steadfast support. Do you remember a particular local shop that truly felt like the beating heart of your own hometown? Being a carpenter was more than a mere profession. It was a dedicated, invaluable community service. He repaired pews for the church, meticulously crafted cradles for new babies, and built coffins for the departed. His hands were always ready for labor, and his kind, generous heart was always wide open for others. Everyone trusted his quiet skills and his unwavering integrity, a dependable, unspoken truth in the community. Locals had a saying, "If Mr. Greer can't fix it, then it simply cannot be fixed," a testament to his skill. The community was more than just a place to reside. It was a living, breathing network of mutual support. They shared their simple joys, eased each other's quiet sorrows, and navigated challenges together as one. Lessons of simple kindness and quiet cooperation were gently etched into young Thomas's observant mind. It was an education not found in any school books, but rather in the unfolding tapestry of daily, shared life. Thomas's father was an essential part of that structure, a quiet, unseen builder of community foundations. These profound connections were forged not through many spoken words, but by countless, quiet, thoughtful actions. The workshop itself stood as a powerful symbol of quiet service and unassuming, diligent craftsmanship. Thomas often observed his father, absorbing unspoken lessons from his unwavering, focused diligence. It was not merely about hammering nails and planing wood, but rather about diligently building enduring bridges. The community functioned like a well-oiled machine, where every single part played its own vital, necessary role. Quiet smiles, knowing nods, and gentle, encouraging words formed its strong, invisible, connecting threads. Neighbors helped each other bring in the harvest when someone fell ill, a gesture of profound solidarity. They gathered together to repair a damaged roof after an unexpected, sudden summer storm had passed. Father was always among the very first to offer a willing, helping hand without a single moment of hesitation. Do you remember the specific individuals who truly shaped your own earliest sense of belonging and community? Summer evenings were spent sitting on front porches, sharing quiet stories and the simple, gentle breezes. The scent of honeysuckle and damp earth mingled, a comforting, familiar perfume of quiet, shared existence. Fireflies blinked in the warm, humid air, tiny, fleeting stars dancing gracefully upon the dark, rich earth. The unspoken lessons Thomas learned there remained with him always, deeply embedded in his thoughtful heart. Every rhythmic scrape of a plane in the workshop was a quiet, steady beat of the community's collective heart. They were the gentle echoes of diligent hard work, quiet dedication, and unspoken, profound, enduring love. Thomas knew his father had touched many more lives than merely the wood he carefully shaped and smoothed. He had built relationships as sturdy and reliable as the strong, beautiful tables he meticulously crafted. That feeling of deep belonging was an invaluable gift, quietly given without many words, yet profoundly felt. Did you ever feel truly part of something much larger than yourself? A comforting, expansive embrace? Father never sought public recognition, only quiet satisfaction in a job well done, truly completed. His pride lay in knowing he had contributed something good and lasting to the lives of others. The scent of machine oil and sweet cedar was the true fragrance of unspoken, enduring communal love. The lessons were never truly spoken aloud, but rather lived fully and completely every single day. In their small village, it was often said that kindness was truly the very best kind of currency. It was a quiet, profound legacy that young Thomas carried with him throughout his entire unfolding life. The gentle rustling of wind through ancient, towering trees were stories quietly told across generations. Dusty country roads connected not only scattered houses, but also deeply intertwined, caring hearts. Every crack in the pavement held a memory, a passing encounter, a fleeting, cherished moment. Thomas's father was an integral, irreplaceable part of all that gentle, quiet, profound beauty. He could still feel his father's gentle presence in the very air as he stood within the quiet workshop. The tools still lay quietly, patiently waiting for a skilled, knowing hand to return and use them. The scent of wood and machine oil still lingered, a gentle, comforting, persistent reminder of past days. It told a quiet story of a good man and a strong community that lovingly shaped his very being. The homes of the community were like sturdy, individual bricks of a shared, enduring, quiet temple. Each person contributed their own small, unique part to the beautiful, intricate, much larger picture. Thomas felt a familiar, gentle warmth spread quietly throughout his thoughtful, remembering heart. These cherished memories were a precious treasure, carefully kept safe and warm over many, many decades. Father had built not just furniture and tools, but also a lasting, profound legacy of quiet, human connection. Can you think of a particular person who left such a lasting, gentle mark upon your own life? The sounds of saws and planes were now soothing, gentle lullabies, echoing softly from a distant, fond past. Thomas closed his eyes gently, allowing the tender memories to drift by like quiet passing clouds. A profound sense of peace enveloped him, a comforting, deep feeling of a life well lived and honored. That community, that beloved workshop, and that gentle father still lived on, vibrant and strong. The distinct local church bell's chime remained a gentle, sweet reminder of enduring friendship and belonging. The quiet lessons of community and selfless service were truly golden, shimmering threads of wisdom. They still continued to weave the rich, intricate tapestry of Thomas's life, even to this very day. He took a slow, deep breath, quietly savoring the lingering, comforting aroma of his cherished past. A gentle smile touched his lips, and a profound, quiet tranquility filled his calm, reflective soul. The unspoken lessons from the silent workshop still echoed softly, gently, in the quiet, peaceful night. The comforting scent of freshly planed wood and machine oil was the steady rhythm of their peaceful days. Young Thomas often heard the rhythmic scrape of the hand plane and the gentle hum of saws from his father's workshop. These familiar sounds were a quiet lullaby, marking his father's diligent presence just beyond the kitchen door. Do you remember the sense of security and regularity that familiar routines brought to your childhood home? Dinner was always served punctually, with his mother's hearty stew consistently warm and wonderfully fragrant. His father would recount his day, offering gentle stories about customers and the various types of wood he encountered. Thomas listened intently, picturing the careful craftsmanship of cabinets taking shape under his father's skilled hands. Only a true woodworker understands the deep satisfaction of a perfectly fitted mortise and tenon joint clicking into place. Evenings passed with the soft murmur of the radio and the comforting crackle of logs. Within the living room fireplace, oil lamps cast a warm, inviting glow, painting long, dancing shadows across the familiar parlor walls. His mother often sat knitting, her needles clicking softly, crafting practical and cozy woolen garments. Sometimes his father read stories from an old, leather-bound book, his voice a comforting, resonant rumble. These simple moments wove the very fabric of young Thomas's life, thread by gentle thread. His father was the sturdy pillar of that small world, as dependable and rooted as an ancient oak tree. He never imagined that such profound serenity could ever truly shift or be unexpectedly disrupted. The years flowed by like a quiet, meandering river, without hurry, without any apparent disquiet. The workshop door always stood ajar, inviting the gentle tap of a hammer and the sweet scent of cedar. It was a world of creation and order, where every tool and every piece of timber had its proper place. Thomas often visited, watching his father work, learning lessons without a single spoken word. Those lessons seeped into him, as profound and enduring as the finely crafted wooden objects themselves. Then, one ordinary afternoon, a letter bearing an unfamiliar postmark arrived in their daily mail. His mother picked it up, her gaze lingering on the envelope for an unusually long moment. His father read it at the kitchen table, the familiar lines on his brow seeming a little deeper than usual. Do you recall a specific moment when something small subtly shifted the peace within your own home? His parents' conversations became softer, often whispered after young Thomas had already gone to bed. There was no sudden abrupt change, merely a delicate shift in the familiar household atmosphere. The hand plane still scraped, yet there seemed a new, almost imperceptible hesitation within its steady rhythm. Only a true craftsman can sense the subtle shift in a fellow worker's saw stroke or the tension in their silence. His father spent more time in the workshop, but the sounds of industry did not echo quite as robustly. He often saw him standing by the window, his gaze distant, lost in quiet contemplation. Thomas sensed the change, like a gentle, cool breeze finding its way through a seemingly closed door. His mother continued her household chores as usual. Yet she too glanced out the window more frequently. A new quietude settled. Not the quiet of serenity, but the stillness of an unspoken anticipation. His father, a man of few words, spoke even less now, often lost deep within his own thoughts. The small wooden toys Thomas had mentally commissioned for himself remained untouched on his father's workbench. He often sat by the fireplace, simply watching the dancing flames in quiet, unbroken contemplation. Thomas observed him, trying to read what lay hidden behind his father's thoughtful, blue eyes. Only children can truly feel the subtle shifts in the heartbeat of a family. Even when nothing is spoken aloud, the unease was not fear, but a faint, translucent shadow that had fallen quietly over their home. It was like a morning mist, still allowing sight, yet gently softening the sharp edges of everything. Then one morning, his father announced a decision, his voice calm yet unmistakably resolute. He needed to travel to a place several hundred miles away to address an urgent family matter. Thomas did not question. He simply watched his mother, who nodded with a quiet, knowing understanding. Have you ever had to say a quiet goodbye to a loved one? Uncertain of their exact return, they prepared his small suitcase with deliberate care. Each item folded neatly and thoughtfully placed inside. The following morning, the sound of his father's pickup truck starting reverberated through the crisp morning air. Thomas stood on the porch, waving as the truck rumbled slowly away, taking a familiar part of their world with it. Only those in rural life truly grasp the striking silence that descends once a departing vehicle fades into the distance. The house felt quieter, and his father's workshop now stood firmly closed and utterly still. Thomas missed the scrape of the plane, the buzz of the saw, sounds that had been the day's quiet symphony. His mother maintained a normal routine, but her eyes frequently drifted towards the long, winding driveway. Each evening, she lit the oil lamps a little earlier, as if to ward off the encroaching twilight. The days drifted by like a slow-moving river, each morning bringing a renewed sense of quiet expectation. Letters arrived in the mail, but none bore the familiar, strong handwriting of his absent father. The telephone on the kitchen wall remained stubbornly silent, offering no sudden, hopeful jingle. Thomas sometimes visited the workshop, placing his hand on the closed wooden door, feeling the palpable absence. The scent of wood and machine oil still lingered, but now they were a poignant reminder of emptiness. Do you remember the feeling of a familiar space suddenly taking on a subtly altered, quieter quality? His mother never complained. She simply continued her tasks with a quiet, enduring fortitude. Her silence was a testament to unwavering hope and an almost boundless, quiet patience. Meals were still served, but an empty chair at the table amplified the lingering sense of absence. Thomas noticed his mother often prepared an extra serving, a habit born of pure, enduring custom. Her gaze would flicker to the empty chair, then return to Thomas with a gentle, reassuring smile. Only a mother can transform unspoken worry into a quiet, unwavering strength that sustains all around her. Evenings still held the radio's soft presence, but now the music seemed to carry a slightly more melancholic tone. Thomas read his books, but his mind often wandered to the distant place where his father now found himself. The waiting was like an invisible thread, tautly stretched between them through every quiet moment. It was not a heavy burden, but it was always present, a gentle pressure upon their collective heart. Each new day was a blank page, waiting for a word, a tangible sign of eventual return. Thomas began to understand the subtle distinction between genuine peace and the mere stillness of absence. Finally, a letter with the familiar, strong handwriting arrived in the Daily Mail one afternoon. His mother opened it with a slow, careful motion, her breath held in a silent, suspended moment. She read it, and a small, relieved smile gently curved upon her lips, easing the unspoken tension. His father would be home in a few days, his important tasks now successfully concluded. Do you remember the feeling of quiet relief when a period of anxious waiting finally came to its gentle end? There was no shouting, no boisterous excitement, just a profound, pervasive sense of quiet reassurance. An invisible burden seemed to lift from his mother's shoulders and from young Thomas's own heart as well. His father had done what he needed to do, and now he would soon be returning home to them. Rural folk often understood that duties must be fulfilled, regardless of the personal complexities involved. The quietude of the house remained, but now it possessed a subtly altered, more hopeful quality. It was the stillness of a lake after a minor storm, its surface having quietly settled once more. Thomas watched his mother, seeing that she had already begun planning a special, welcoming dinner. She would bake his father's favorite apple pie with its flaky crust and wonderfully sweet filling. The workshop still stood closed, yet Thomas could almost imagine the imminent return of saws and planes. He understood that sometimes life demanded journeys, necessary periods of quiet, temporary absence. Such journeys, though necessary, always left a palpable, aching void within the family's heart. But the return always brought a quiet joy, a gentle, understated reunion of familiar souls. His father, Thomas knew, would carry back new stories and fresh, quiet experiences from his travels. Unspoken lessons would continue to be shared within the warm, inviting glow of the workshop. This absence had taught young Thomas about the quiet power of patience and enduring family bonds. A few days later, the familiar rumble of the pickup truck once again echoed on their dusty driveway. Thomas and his mother stood on the porch, waiting with lightened hearts and renewed, quiet hope. Their lives, much like the river, had quietly rediscovered their gentle, meandering course. The scrape of the hand plane would soon return, a quiet promise of regularity and loving presence. His father's absence, though brief, had etched invaluable lessons deep within Thomas's young mind. He understood that even within quiet stillness, immense strength and connection could always be found. His father's workshop was not merely a place of labor, but a silent, enduring repository of wisdom. It was where everyday life was quietly shaped into lasting, meaningful values, piece by crafted piece. Thomas knew there would be so much more to learn from that quiet man and his beloved, well-used tools. And so, another chapter in their family life began, resuming its familiar, gentle, comforting pace. Thomas Greer often recalled his father's workshop, a place of quiet peace, almost a sanctuary, where time felt suspended. That profound stillness became an invaluable treasure amidst the hurried pace of his adult and often demanding life. As a young man, he frequently found deep solace in the rhythmic, steady sound of his father's hand plane. The quiet hum of the saw blade cutting through timber also created its own gentle, comforting, and predictable rhythm. His father, a man of few spoken words, always communicated profound lessons through his diligent and purposeful actions. He taught his son patience and meticulous care through the crafting of each perfectly fitted and strong wooden joint. He still vividly remembers the distinct, clean scent of freshly planed oak, a truly comforting and earthy fragrance. That unique aroma, combined with the soft, precise tap of the chisel, formed enduring and beautiful childhood memories. Do you, dear listener, recall a specific place from your own past where you found profound and quiet personal peace? Thomas would often stand silently beside his father, attentively observing the careful, deliberate movements of his hands. The sturdy, worn workbench, scarred by countless projects, served as the undeniable heart of that industrious world. A workbench, much like his father's, perhaps equally scarred by honest labor, can still be found in many old homes today. It truly symbolized the quiet, unpretentious endurance and lasting dignity of honest, diligent, and skilled labor. Thomas now fondly reflected on his younger self, a boy who was sometimes clumsy and prone to youthful mistakes. He remembered the times he marred the wood, and his father, patiently, kindly, guided his hands anew. There were no harsh words, just a knowing glance and quiet encouragement from a man who understood patience. Life, much like a winding river, always presented its own challenging bends and unexpected turns. Requiring adaptation, Thomas gradually learned that even minor imperfections were simply an intrinsic part of the authentic learning process. His father often remarked, "Every single mark and every small scratch tells its very own unique story." Those quiet, unspoken stories ultimately shaped the thoughtful, resilient man Thomas eventually became in his later years. Do you perhaps remember a particular simple phrase or guiding wisdom from your own dear parents? Thomas vividly recalled the satisfying feeling when a rough board finally became perfectly smooth under his own hands. It was the profound sensation of genuine accomplishment after diligent, focused effort and steady perseverance. The quiet insistence on meticulous attention to every small detail was an absolutely invaluable, lasting life lesson. He remembered his father often checking the tightness of a newly formed joint with just his sensitive fingertips. No words were needed then, just the tactile sensation to confirm if the fit was truly perfect and strong. This was an intimate, subtle detail that only experienced, dedicated woodworkers truly understood and appreciated. Thomas learned profound respect for the raw materials and the precise, well-maintained tools of the trade. A properly sharpened chisel, as he often discovered, always performed its critical task far more efficiently. His father taught him to care for his tools as diligently as he would care for his own physical well-being. Life in rural Pennsylvania during 1957 was beautifully simple, yet filled with profound purpose. The quiet lessons from that workshop later helped him navigate many unexpected challenges in his own life. He was never a perfect man, but he always strived to give his very best effort in everything he undertook. Thomas recalled one morning when he forgot his measuring tape and had to walk all the way back home. His father simply smiled, offering no rebuke, just a look of gentle, understanding, compassion, and empathy. The lesson of thoroughness and careful preparation emerged from these seemingly small, everyday mistakes. Do you remember moments when you had to learn from your own small, yet important, personal missteps? Thomas's grandfather, a man of quiet strength, also possessed considerable skill as a talented carpenter. Woodworking, therefore, was a cherished family tradition, carefully handed down through the generations. Every finished piece carried the undeniable mark and distinct personality of its dedicated, skillful maker. His father's workshop was not merely a place of productive labor, but truly a patient, silent, and profound school. Those valuable lessons became deeply ingrained within Thomas from his very earliest, formative childhood years. He learned the enduring value of true dedication and the quiet strength of unwavering personal integrity. A well-built wooden chair, crafted with care, will comfortably last for many loving generations to come. Much like his father's unwavering love, it remains steadfast, strong, and entirely dependable through the years. Many people still genuinely cherish and appreciate these beautifully aged heirloom wooden objects today. They quietly carry the whispered, untold stories and silent histories of deeply cherished times long past. Are there specific treasured objects in your own home that quietly tell stories of your own personal past? Thomas remembered his father often pausing, taking a moment to simply admire his newly finished creation. It was a look of quiet, deep satisfaction, requiring no grand or elaborate words of self-congratulation. He taught his son that true, lasting contentment comes from diligent, painstaking work, lovingly done. Not every single thing was absolutely perfect, but it was always the very best effort possible. Thomas also learned to graciously accept the inherent limitations of his own skills and personal abilities. The most important thing was always the spirit of learning and persistent, steady, and unwavering effort. Thomas's father remained a steadfast, unwavering pillar of quiet strength for their close-knit, loving family. He provided a profound sense of stability and an undeniable feeling of comforting, absolute security for everyone. Do you recall a specific person who offered you that very same profound sense of unwavering security? The workshop became a cherished refuge, a peaceful sanctuary from the world's increasing clamor and noise. Inside its sturdy walls, he consistently found quiet stillness and opportunities for profound personal contemplation. Those cherished memories still remain remarkably vivid and very much alive within Thomas's thoughtful mind. Much like an old treasured painting, the vibrant colors still feel remarkably bright and wonderfully distinct. The steady sound of wood planing, the distinct smell of machine oil, they all wonderfully linger there. Thomas had truly learned that peace does not necessarily mean the complete absence of life's challenging storms. Rather, it is the profound ability to discover quiet stillness amidst life's constant, inevitable complexities. His father lived precisely such a life, calm, steady, and remarkably peaceful, even through hardship. A sturdy, well-made oak dresser, built with care, can certainly still be found gracing homes, even today. It carries the quiet, untold narratives of the loving hands that once opened its drawers and kept their treasures. Thomas deeply treasured these enduring, authentic values and this steadfast, quiet integrity above all else. His grandfather firmly believed in the honest, inherent beauty of raw, natural, and unadorned materials. Every unique grain in the wood possessed its own distinct, singular beauty, both timeless and absolutely enduring. Do you often take notice of the quiet, enduring beauty in the simple, everyday things around you? The workshop stood as a powerful symbol of quiet, unwavering dedication and humble, creative craftsmanship. Thomas spent countless quiet hours observing, learning, and diligently absorbing every subtle detail. Every single tool and every piece of raw material always had its own precise and designated place. This thoughtful, efficient orderliness truly reflected the calm, methodical mind of the dedicated craftsman. Thomas recalled the cool, smooth sensation of the wooden handles on the hand planes and chisels. Such classic, well-made hand tools are still lovingly used and treasured by many skilled artisans today. They stand as undeniable testaments to the enduring power and lasting quality of true, honest craftsmanship. His father always firmly believed that every single object possessed its own valuable and specific purpose. Nothing was ever wasted in his tidy workshop. Every piece of wood found a meaningful and practical use. Do you, dear listener, recall someone in your life who always found a good use for nearly everything? Thomas often helped his father carefully sort through the various small, leftover pieces of scrap wood. These fragments would later be used for smaller, intricate projects, or perhaps for kindling on cold evenings. This thoughtful economy and quiet ingenuity were truly an inherent, essential part of their daily life. Thomas carried these invaluable, unspoken lessons with him throughout his entire long and meaningful life. The quiet peace he discovered there continued to nourish his thoughtful spirit and soothe his mind. It acted like a steady, comforting lighthouse beam in the occasional, inevitable darkness and confusion, offering quiet guidance and a profound, unwavering sense of personal stability and comforting security. He always felt a deep, abiding gratitude for the quiet, profound lessons he had so lovingly received from his quiet, hard-working father and from that very cherished, beloved workshop itself, long ago. Whenever he closed his eyes, he could still clearly envision that familiar, comforting, and beloved scene. The gentle, rhythmic sound of the hand plane, the steady hum of the saw, still echoed in his mind. The distinct, sweet scent of fresh wood, the familiar aroma of machine oil, unforgettable, cherished fragrances. They were the strong, invisible threads connecting him directly to his own peaceful, formative childhood. A childhood richly filled with quiet, unwavering love and gentle, patient, and consistent guidance. Thomas finally recognized the profound, lasting value in the simple, humble things of everyday life. A lovingly handmade chair, a perfectly sharpened knife, a warm and comforting, silent embrace. These seemingly small things, truly, had built the thoughtful, resilient man he eventually became today, and they continued to bring him a deep, abiding sense of lasting, comforting, and unwavering personal peace. It was the distinct smell of machine oil and the rhythmic sound of wood planing that became the enduring song of his life.